죄송해요. Eliminate player 69.
Fatality.
What is up, binge watchers? Welcome back to Screen Kings. For today's video, I'll be doing a non-spoiler review of this Netflix Korean show that's gaining a lot of viewers lately. So I gotta see this for myself because the show's premise is so interesting. It's called Squid Game, directed and written by Hwang Dong-hyuk, and in it we have 456 people, all cash-strapped, all financially struggling, all broke and desperate, and they are invited to play in this mysterious survival game in which they are to compete in a series of traditional childhood games, but with a deadly twist. Now, why is it called the Squid Game? What does a squid anything have to do with it? Apparently, there's this Korean childhood game called Squid Game, and it's played in an arena shaped like a squid, and the goal is to get into the opponent's base and do whatever it takes. We actually have a version of that game here in the Philippines, but this Squid Game is far more brutal for kids because there are no rules in this game. You can play dirty, you can use brute force. So I think that perfectly encapsulates what this show is all about. You know how it is when it comes to survival games. It's the survival of the fittest, deception, betrayal, a lot of every man for himself kind of scenario, doing whatever it takes. So if you watch shows like Alice in Borderland in Netflix and movies like The Hunger Games, you will fit right into this show. But the difference with those movies and shows compared to this one is normally when you get survival games, they're set in a dystopic future or some imagined setting. In here, it's set on a reality. So I think that's a brilliant decision to set this movie in a current milieu because the world today is just sad, especially during these times. A lot of people are broke and desperate, so you will really ask the question to yourself. And thankfully, I'm not yet placed on a position that I'm too desperate for cash, but what if, right? So will I be willing to partake and put my life on the line just for money? So these are all consenting adults. However, they don't know that losing in this game means you will be eliminated, which means that you're gonna die. They will learn that early on after the first game. But yeah, this show really capitalizes on their desperation, this dog-eat-dog mentality. It's common for survival games to picture this small scenario here as some sort of a microcosm of a capitalist society where every man is out for himself, and kind of promotes the idea that only the ruthless, only the opportunist, only the manipulative people can actually succeed and go into the next round. Of course, that's not the whole point of the show. It's only, one of the takeaways here, but there are actually some good people here that are willing to risk their lives for the betterment of their other players. So why would you do that? It all goes to some morality play and a lot of dilemmas thrown here in the show. The games here, they're all intense, they're nerve-wracking, they had me on the edge of my seat, especially episodes 3 to 5. And it's a combination of a game that requires physical strength, endurance at times, and a lot of luck. So this show knows how to build its tension and sustain it over the course of episodes. And granted, there are some moments here that kind of bogs down the pacing, but that's okay because I'm completely engrossed with the characters here. But what's the most interesting part here is the strategy, the politicking among the contestants, because that proves to be one of the most riveting moments of the show. So along the way, there will be alliances that will be formed because you can't go on this game alone. Some are genuine, some are just transactional, and by transactional, I mean if it serves them right, they're gonna keep you, and if you no longer serve a purpose, they're just gonna ditch you. So that's just like how life is, right? And also, here's the thing, every time a person dies in this game, the pot money increases. So it does not take a genius to deduce that more deaths equates to higher price, and less people left in the game will be tantamount to higher shares among the survivors, right? So some of the players here are going to take matters into their own hands, and that's really terrifying because as we get to the further stages of the game, the deaths become more desensitized, and you slowly start to forget that these people around you are actually people, that you start to think of them as pawns that you can play and will serve their purpose so you can get that prize. Now, I'm not saying that this show is filled with unlikable people. It's just they're good people, but when they're trapped in this scenario that they can only do so much to further their lives in the game, they will be pushed to do some dirty things, and that's just the sad reality of life. And for a survival show, I did not expect this one to be that character driven. Something happens in episode 2, I'm not gonna say what that is, but it allows us to get a deeper look and get a backstory for most of our major characters here, so you can understand each character's motives and the reasons why they did such things, because they are all broke. They're all on the same boat, but they have different reasons for why they did get into that situation. So I think it's interesting that, you know, to know so many people and different lifestyles, different classes, and somehow they end up getting broke. So I think that's interesting, and you're going to root for some of these characters. I actually rooted hard for a couple of characters here, and you know, when it's a survival game, do not get attached because there will be heartaches. I have to commend the script here because the emotional key moments here picked along episode 6, which is just heartbreaking. I'm not gonna say anything else, but yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. I would liken this show's treatment of its characters akin to Train to Busan, where it does not treat its characters as purely cannon fodders, and there are some deconstructed character moments. And speaking of Train to Busan, Gong-hyuk here makes a cameo role. Even if we have a main protagonist here who's Ji-hyun, he's this gambler of a man who has lost everything in his life, his marriage, the custody for his child, his grandmother is even sick. So these are the reasons that drive him to enter this game. It's pretty much an ensemble piece because you get to know bits and pieces of the complexity of these characters, and they're actually interesting and fascinating. So another thing that I love about this show is the production design. All of those colorful settings to portray the innocence of the childhood when it comes to the playgrounds, the never-ending stairs here, the colorful doors, and it really accentuates the dark humor that this show has given what's happening here, because blood will be spilled everywhere. I also have to point out there are sleeping quarters here. It gives me huge anxiety just seeing that room, seeing these bunkers stacked on top of each other like they're treated some disposable inventory in some sort of a warehouse. That really triggers me. So yeah, I think that's a really inspired choice. And yeah, we also get some behind the scenes look here because the point of view doesn't really focus just on the players. We also have some of the soldiers here dressed in red hazard suits. I'm not gonna say which character because I'm not gonna spoil it for you guys, but we follow one perspective here. So slowly by slowly, we get to understand what this mysterious organization is all about and why they are doing these things. Now, that particular subplot, I felt like it's delivering something that's supposed to be something major and enlightening, but it kind of felt a bit underwhelming when it came to it, and ultimately it doesn't feel like they have a huge impact on that story. And also to that ending, I kind of felt betrayed by the ending, and it feels like they're just dropping this huge shock moment, and it goes on, you know, explaining why these things need to happen in such a simplistic way that I was not entirely buying it. I'm not saying that this is far from reality. It is probably far from reality. Like, a lot of questions will pop in your head, like how come this mysterious organization can get away with abducting, you know, 400 people and, you know, transferring them into some remote location. That kind of thing gets all over the news, right? But, you know, I guess this all unanswered questions can be solved by a second season because the show lives on an open ending. And given that this show is gaining a lot of noise and getting a lot of support from people all over the world, I think they're gonna make a second season. I hope that it's gonna be just as intense and just as insightful when it comes to telling this commentaries. And speaking of, there's another commentary here about class division, because there's this particular elite group that's working as spectators. They're meant to be obnoxious and repulsive. You get those ideas that it's all about the rich preying on the desperation of the poor. It's not that complex like what Parasite did when it comes to class division, but regardless, when you see this group of people, either the players or the elites, who are willing to trade their dignity just because of their greed or their desire to get this twisted form of amusement. It's actually sad. So overall, I think this show is very bingeable. It keeps the intrigue and the search for answers right until the very last episode. You got to hear the tension, key character moments, fostering on these relationships, themes about class divisions, and even ageism or sexism. So a lot of things. So if you are intrigued by this show, I think you should go and check this out because you might end up liking this. So I'm gonna give this one a 4 out of 5 stars. However, if you're not in the mood for, a show that features killing a lot of people, given this current state that we have, best to stay away from this show. But yeah, if you're getting some form of amusement in these types of show, go for it. So yeah, how about you guys? Have you seen this show? Let me know what you think in the comment sections down below. Also, if you enjoyed watching this video, hit that like and subscribe to me for weekly content. Thank you so much guys for watching. Until then, I'll see you all on the next one.